Wow, beautiful day down here. I'm outside in the elements, and that's exactly what this video is going to be about. It's going to be about the 7 other elements of fight preparation, or the 7 X factors. So here we go. The 7 X factors, or the 7 other elements of fight preparation. Besides training, besides the build-up, promotion, all the cameras, all the lights, all the looks, clothes, food, women, etc., contributing to a fight. So what about the other elements, or the other X factors? What about the dreams leading up to a fight? The food you eat that's going to make you make your weight or miss your weight. The calls you receive. That one person that came to you, that you wasn't expecting, gave you a gift or something, gave you some advice, gave you a hug or a kiss before the fight that changes your mood, that possibly increased your stamina, that somehow lifted up your mental or your morale. See, fighting is like living. The late great Cus D'Amato, and I'm sure other great coaches, but Cus D'Amato told Mike Tyson in a documentary I saw on Mike Tyson, be careful of the way you fight, because the way you fight will be the way you live your life. All right? Different coaches, teachers, trainers prepare fighters in different ways. Some, for example, like Prefontaine's coach, Bill Bowerman, he was one of those calculating type coaches. He mapped out and calculated everything like a math problem. He had an equation. You train this way, you run this way, you will peak here. You'll kick it up there. Example, he would train his athletes to run a certain way at certain times in the race, during certain conditions, at certain tracks. He also had formulas for the just-in-case situations. Just in case you're running against a dude with long legs. Just in case you're trailing behind someone, or just in case you're running side by side with someone. Just in case the wind is blowing 6 miles per hour in your face. Then you do A, B, or C, or you do A, B, and C. Y'all check out the movie, by the way, on Prefontaine and his coach Bill Bowerman, and you'll see what I'm talking about clearly. But in the end, you never know what's going to happen, because it's always up to the athlete to perform, to achieve greatness, to make the impossible possible. And that's why we honor the greats. So, exercising, training, it's all a big part of our performance, not just in a fight or a race or a game, but everything. Training becomes dull and it becomes tiresome, it becomes redundant. And if y'all have ever trained for a fight or a match or a contest or whatever before, you know that you need constant motivation after a certain point in your training. You don't want to plateau with your training. So you must mix it up. You must somehow increase as you train. You don't want to do the same thing over and over. You want to add in different elements to make your training better. What if the same thing works, you might ask? And then you ask yourself, why should I change it? Well, to put it simply, the only constant thing is change. And if you're using the same methods from 10 years ago, you're already behind. Your sport adapts and changes. The fighters either evolve or de-evolve. Everything is changing either for the better or for the worse. So you want to have the most premium methods, which has to do a lot with change, evolving, elevation, all that good stuff. Even when you find yourself going back to older or ancient or even esoteric methods, compared to nowadays practices, those seem new. They're unique compared to nowadays. I just like to call them tried and true, because most of them were just so complete. They were intense and they were focus driven. All right, now back to the other elements. Before, after, or while you're training, there are other elements that will affect your performance, your off days. They'll affect your mentality, your spirit, and simply the way you live and approach your life, inside and outside that ring, or that mat, or that squared circle, or that court. Now, this goes into modern wisdom for training, but simple things such as a controlled environment contributes a lot to your training regimen. The environment is key, and that's why many fighters go off somewhere distant or train at certain altitudes. But let's get right into it. Number one X factor out the 7 or 7 other elements is your mentality.
I'm the greatest of all time.
Mindset, mental tactics, art of war, strategy, your outlook. Do you have a ferocious mentality in the ring like Mike Tyson, Edwin Valero, Jack Dempsey, Nigel Benn? Do you have an adaptive, fluid mentality of a Sweet Pea or an Ali? We know Nas said New York state of mind, but I'm saying warrior state of mind. You got to get yourself into some state so that you can build off of it, so that you have some sort of foundation before you go into a camp or a regiment for a bout, during and after a bout, but specifically before a bout.
Sucker, you ain't nothing.
It's really sad when fighters go into a fight without a game plan. And sometimes it works in their favor, and sometimes it doesn't. Now, I prefer you going with a game plan or a strategy and just adapt as you go, but some just going with nothing at all, and 9 times out of 10, we see what happens when they do that. But you have to be on another level to be able to go into a fight with no mental strategy at all. To be able to go in there and just adapt, roll with punches, and come up with something on the fly. Now we know, or I'm telling you now, that Bruce Lee formed JKD, Jeet Kune Do. All right? And that was some of his mindset for Jeet Kune Do. No strategy. Be able to adapt and change. No set moves or tactics. Just capitalize on what's given to you and be able to flow and take advantage of everything that you see or adjust or observe. All right, number 2, spirit and spirituality. Marquez going up to the mountains to train for the 4th Ali fight. Muhammad Ali and Zaire gathering the morale of the people. Joe Louis and Sugar Ray Robinson going to that famous cabin in the woods at Greenwood Lake. Meditation, isolation. Those 2 things we just named are almost like cleansing for the soul, for the spirit, so you can get fully in tuned. All right? Spirit, spirituality, number 2 X factor for number 2 out the 7 X factors in preparation for a fight. Many fighters go to mountain cabins, they go to caves, coves, any remote area where there is nature around. And in theory and in esoteric practice, that builds up the spirit. To build up your spirit or spiritual power to achieve what you want or to achieve, what you need to achieve to get the job done.
1, 2, 3.
And believe it or not, fighting is also spiritual. Fighting is very, very spiritual, y'all. Ain't no telling what these fighters do to build up the spirit nowadays. I mean, ain't no telling what esoteric or exoteric practices or things that they're into. Now, from firsthand experience, I can say that the actual training camp is only about 1/3 of the training. All the real stuff, the real preparation, no one ever sees, or only a few people see. So training the spirit, the spirituality, is one of the key X factors for fight buildup. So we got number 1, mentality, number 2, spirit or spirituality, and on to number 3, the word. What words are you using before the bout? The word is power. How is a fighter speaking? What are they saying? What are they conveying? The late great Theodore Tiger Flowers, aka the Georgia Deacon, is well-known fact that before every fight, he read the 144th Psalm out the Bible. And the 144th Psalm is about going to war and having the Lord as your shield and being being prepared for battle and to do your best in battle. What about Ali saying that he's going to win?
I'm the greatest of all time.
Ali saying that he's going to win, and then saying in which round he's going to knock an opponent out, and then the shit happening, coming to fruition. Now everybody does it nowadays, trying to speak it into existence, trying to say how they gonna beat somebody down, and getting their word game up, getting their word power up. And I can specifically remember being in training camps, and a fighter or a warrior talking about I'm just gonna do my best, even though I have a slim chance of winning, or we'll see what I can do, or such and such probably gonna beat me, but I'm gonna give him all. No, mother flusher. Don't even think or say those statements. All right? As a young coach and a young warrior, I'm in my 30s now, but as a younger man and a younger coach, at the time I had to learn to, I didn't know it at the time, but as I grew, I had to learn to eradicate such words and statements, especially while training. You got to prohibit those words during your training. Say that shit afterwards, after you won, after you done achieved victory. Say that shit in an interview, to make it sound interesting, to throw a little spice on it. But never say those self-defeating words during a training camp or if you're training someone.
You too ugly.
Never, ever say self-defeating words while you're training, y'all. Be careful what you say and wish for, because you just might get it. Ask and ye shall receive. The word has the power to heal or kill. And we all know these sayings, So the word creates the power, the creative force, and the fruition of the earner's word is just a powerful thing. So that was number 3. Number 1, mentality. Number 2, spirit or spirituality. And number 3, the word. On to number 4. The fourth thing out of the 7 X factors or 7 other elements in fight preparation. Magic and superstition.
I'm so good, it's scary.
Magic and superstition. Pacquiao's mammy doing roots and incantations and voodoo or spells or Santeria or whatever she was doing during his fights. That's a big factor. Whether you believe in it or not, use it or not, it's still an unseen factor that you must at least acknowledge. It may be true and it may not be true, but someone else out there doing special prayers and all types of other stuff in your favor is a big factor. Superstition, premonition. For instance, how else could we explain Sugar Ray Robinson having a dream where he killed a man in the ring? Then he backed out of the fight. Then after he backed out, said, "No, I can't do it." They brought in a priest to talk to him, tell him, is this a dream? Is this a premonition? Is this superstition? And then he was later forced into the fight. And what he dreamt about came true. He killed the man in the ring.
You better look out, punk.
How else could we explain, and I'm gathering this from the book called The Sweet Thunder, about many boxers during Sugar Ray Robinson's era. Real thick book and has a lot of great information, by the way. But how else could we explain Henry Armstrong? Henry Armstrong speaking to angels. And one of the angels, he said in the book, gave him power. And the angel told him, you're going to be a great and spectacular as a warrior. You're going to do many great things as a fighter. What else contributes to the magic factor? The things warriors wear or keep on their person, such as special necklaces and lucky draws and golden shoes, lucky amulets. You know, I used to know a guy, I ain't gonna say his full name, but his name was Nick. I used to spar with him, and whenever there was a big bout or some type of big match or even a big training day, he would wear these same pair of drawers. And they were just wretched, y'all. They horrible smell. You could smell them through the clothes. And I was like, Nick, why are you wearing those drawers, man? Just wash them drawers. But in his mind, it was just superstition that since he won so many big matches with those same pair of underwear, if he didn't wash them and always wore them, he was going to win. Those are the type of superstitions that a lot of fighters and athletes have.
No way you're going to win.
It has a big thing with contributing to their mental, and I suppose to their spirit and to their, you know, their overall health for the fight, I suppose. Well, what about your boy? If y'all remember that movie, La 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 Bamba, or that song La Bamba, you remember in the movie your boy Richie Valens from the movie La Bamba, he wore that special charm. He had got it from a medicine man or some type of voodoo man or something. And remember when he either lost it or he left it at home by accident. And in that same week, he got sick and then he died in a plane crash. Now, I'm not saying that contributed to his death, but that magic and superstition is a mother flusher, y'all. And I know, and I'm sure y'all know, plenty of athletes who have these peculiar magical necklaces and bracelets and amulets, and they got strange superstitions behind them. To where if they don't do something ritually, or if they don't wear some lucky shirt, then mentally and spiritually, they feel like they're gonna lose. The shit trips me out, and I'd be honest, I used to be a bit afraid of stuff like that, but now as an adult, I can understand. And being an ex-combatant myself, when I look back, you know, seeing that hindsight is 20/20, I remember eating and drinking specific things before all my matches, because mentally, they made me feel like I had a ton of energy. I used to feel like if I didn't shadow box daily, that I wouldn't be able to be smooth in the ring or on the mat. I felt like I wouldn't be able to telegraph my opponent. And when I look back further, I remember for all my bouts that I would drink pineapple juice and honey before every bout. If I didn't drink that pineapple juice and honey, I felt like I was going to gas out in the ring or on the mat. And that leads us to our next X factor, or our next element, other element of training. Number 5, perception and visualization. When we go back and read about Michael Jordan, Pete Sampras, Pele, Carl Lewis, Hank Aaron. You know, Hank Aaron was real big into visualization. And the list goes on. So many, if not all great athletes saw things before they happened. They perceived it. They conceptualized it in their mind. They created it mentally, and then they played it out. Hook, line, and sinker, y'all. They played it out almost like clockwork. They dreamed about it over and over and over. They perceived it in their minds so it could take place in reality, so it can actually come to fruition.
You better look out, punk.
Seeing is believing, right? Seeing is believing. For all you religious people out there, build it and they will come. That's for all you entrepreneurs and business-minded thinkers out there. Wish upon a star. That's for all you dreamers out there. But your visualization, your mental perception oftentimes dictates what will happen. It's kind of like the famous self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-fulfilling prophecy. You thought it would happen. You saw it happening mentally. So don't be surprised when this shit happens. You know, y'all, or all of us, we are super beings down here on Earth. We have the power to create. We have the power to create with our mind, our body, our soul, and so on. But if you only want to use that power for Facebook, then so be it. If you only want to use your innate power for getting hoes, then so be it. If you only want to use it for silly shit that ain't about improving you or your family, then so be it. You know? Power of perception and visualization. That's number 5. And what your boy Captain Planet say? The power is yours. All right, y'all, on to number 6. The 6th thing out of the 7 for X factors or other elements in preparing for a fight. The people you hang around. Now, I know this sounds simple, but you'd be surprised at how many of us don't understand this dynamic. Now, I'm not going to get into if those people are perceived as good or bad, if they're perceived as progressive or stagnant. But the people you keep your company with while training will indefinitely affect your training and your preparation. And I'm not just talking in the gym either. I'm talking outside the gym, at home, in your neighborhood, in the streets. This is the main reason why so many fighters isolate themselves away from the city, away from their towns, away from the venue that they're fighting at. Y'all ever be around somebody and they just look greasy? You don't even have to touch them or be close to them, but they just ooze out filth. You know that they look slimy. It's almost as if the shit is seeping out, like the slime, the ooze, the grease is seeping out their body, coming out their breath, out their head. And you do not, I repeat, you do not want to get that shit on you. You know, because just being around it, being in the presence of it, it affects your mood. It affects your mindset. It affects your energy. Watch the people you hang around. You training for the biggest fight of your life, but everybody at the spot that you're hanging out with, they worried about the next drink, the next hoe, who going to be at the club that night. They worried about what specials the local food spot got on the menu. They worried about the next cigarette. Nothing to do with your fight now. Nothing at all.
Back to the gym, son.
They worried about silly shit like who gonna be there. You know what I'm saying? They worried about what car we're gonna drive. You know, just
Sucker, look at you.
simple, idiotic stuff that you don't need to be concerned or focused about. And being around those type of people, in turn, you begin thinking like them. You get around them and you become one with their lowly thoughts. They come to the fight, you know, you in there doing your thing. You see them in the crowd, and the image of a damn Black and Mild pop up in your head, and boom, bop, you get caught with a hook. Y'all know what we're saying. Y'all know what we're saying. And yes, it is good to give your mind a break and let your mind charge up and to get away and maybe hang around people that you're comfortable with. But you must keep your mind strong and focused during your preparation. You ain't gonna do that around a bunch of lowlifes, all right? I guarantee you, you're not gonna do it around a bunch of slackers, lackeys, liars, cheaters. You're not gonna be able to do that around shady folks, snaky businessmen, busters, jokers. You're not gonna be able to do that around them. You're not gonna be able to keep your mind focused and strong at all times like you need to be. So be wary of the company you keep. Also, limit how many people you come into contact with during your preparation. Just trust me on that. And that leads to our final X factor, our final other element in preparation for a fight. All right? So, last but not least, definitely not least, and it's probably most of our favorites, but number 7, sex. Y'all know how they say, mind your P's and Q's? Well, dag blasted, mind your sex. Mind your libido. That means control it, harness it, and limit it during training. Now, I know a lot of us think that it's just hearsay, it's just folklore. But the more you retain your libido, the more you retain energy, the more you retain vital fluids and vital nutrients and a whole host of other things, you know, that you retain when you keep, you know, your sexual energy inside your body. So men, during and before your bouts and matches, refrain from busting nuts, getting head and all that. Women, keep your mouth and your legs closed. No pound sessions, no booty calls, none of that. I have needs or none of that. I'm horny after my period. None of that. Both men and women alike. You gotta refrain from masturbation as well too. And that not only goes for fighters and warriors. This goes for all athletes. This goes for the average Joe. If you got a big presentation coming up, a big inventory at the job, a big something at your workplace or business coming up, reserve your energy. Reserve your libido. And keep them sexual people away from you, man. Because all they're going to do is tempt and provoke you. We all got sexual friends. Every time you see them, they in their phone, they texting, they trying to get up with some chick, they trying to go to some orgy. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The only thing they talking about is how bad the chicks look. Stay away from them people in your preparation.
I'm gonna embarrass you.
Because all they're gonna do is tempt and provoke you. And I'm telling y'all, I know, I'm a man, I know the temptation's hard, but you gotta stay away from it. It took me years before I was able to control myself enough to not have sex or masturbate before matches, before big dates, before big presentations. And there's a lot we can get into with that, you know, with the way you feel afterwards, you know, feeling weak in the knees or in the hips, or you feel drained. But we'll get into that on another occasion. And there's a big science behind sex, y'all. Just like the arts. Yes, the sweet science deals with sex. Because a lot of times in the ring, they call fighting in the ring dancing, or the big dance. And dancing alludes to sex. Dancing is almost synonymous with sex in a lot of instances. But before we get off topic, subdue your sexual energy and all your temptations to have sex, or smash, as y'all call it nowadays. Reserve that energy and don't rid of it, because it's potent energy. You want to keep it. Last week I was talking about a great friend of mine, Talib. You know, he does Tai Chi. He showed me some, you know, principles and some of the techniques of Tai Chi. And the first principle that you learn in Tai Chi, I'm talking about in the class and outside of the class, if you have a good teacher. The first principle you learn in Tai Chi, and I presume in other physical arts, is that all energy is inherently sexual. The origin of all energy is sexual, y'all. It starts from, or rather, its foundation is from a sexual place. You know, like your sexual chakras and organs. So don't rid of that energy. Don't let it dissipate. You reserve it. You harness it, and you let it help power you on your path to winning, to becoming a champion, or at least to getting a big payday. Then you won't have to worry about it, because all the hoochies will come. Trust me, after you win and stuff, all the hoochies will come and find you. All right? They will come and find you. They can smell money from a mile away, y'all. All right, you see the big stars and celebrities, and I don't know why they get caught up in these schemes. Poor shout outs to Warren Sapp, man, with all that prestige, got that paying for sex, getting caught. Anyway,
Sucker, look at you.
Again, I say unto you, sex, like anything, can be a vice, especially in overindulge. As a matter of fact, if overindulge, sex is one of the most detrimental things. They got classes for people who overindulge in sex. You know what I'm saying? You can get STDs. You can drain your energy. And then you become a mindless zombie just out here just looking for the next nut, like a squirrel, like an animal. And allegedly, you know, we're higher beings than animals, allegedly. But I remember the great Jake LaMotta saying, by the way, y'all, Jake LaMotta is one of my favorite boxers of all time. He's an all-time great, and I pick him a lot on this video game called Fight Night Round Champion. I'm sure y'all know about that video game on the Xbox. And he's still alive, by the way, so give Jake LaMotta, the Raging Bull, a shout out. But in the interview, Jake said, some sex is good for you, but too much is bad. Always a little bit of sex or no sex when training for fights. Jake LaMotta said that. And I saw a recent interview a few years back with Jinky, Manny Pacquiao's wife. And on her own account, she said how the Pac-Man restricts himself from having sex with her, and I suppose with others. he restricts himself from having sex for at least 2 months before all his big fights. Now, I don't know if he's always been like that, but that's what his wife said in the interview. And the great thing about fighting and about this whole dialogue that we sharing is that, like many great teachers have told us way, way before now, is that this info can be applied to almost anything. You know, that's why boxing is called the sweet science, because like science in general and other sciences, it can be applied to all of life and all your other endeavors that you get into. So calculate, emancipate, but do not, I repeat, do not sexamate, do not masturbate or ejaculate in preparation for your fights, in preparation for your projects, in preparation for all the other great endeavors that you're into. All right? So that concludes our discussion about the 7 X factors, or the 7 other elements for fight preparation. So with that, y'all be good. Y'all stay in shape, because we love bossing.